I wanted to chat a little bit about, as many of you know from whether following Supper with Sean or Twitter or Snapchat, that been gone about 14 days, give or take, and on an international trip. We started as part of our Ag Leadership Seminar and our final seminar, so to speak. We were headed to Hong Kong first, a couple of days, and then to Vietnam, and then to Taiwan, where we finished up, flew to Hong Kong again to fly back to Chicago. And as I've been thinking about just trying to dissect everything that we saw and did, 14 days on the road is an awful long time. Not all of which, of course, were in country. We had travel days in between there. But so this will probably be one of a couple parts in a series by way of just kind of lessons learned, things to think about, challenging yourself. But tonight I really wanted to just kind of kick it off with getting uncomfortable. And I think there are many parallels to, hey, Brent, hopefully you're recovered from jet lag already. I think I'm a day away from being recovered on my end, Brent. But as we think about these parallels of getting uncomfortable, meaning that we all have a really, really comfortable life here in the U.S. And I realize that, yeah, we might think we have a bad day or we might be sick. The reality of it is we're still pretty comfortable, right? We know we have health care. We know we have food. We know we have a job. We know we have cars, gas, roads, transportation, infrastructure, all of these things that we're comfortable with because we live around them, we deal with them every day, and we don't know, by and large, as a society, we don't know anything different. But as we think about what are we doing to get uncomfortable, in a lot of ways, whether that's in our careers, whether that's in our home life, whether that's in our spiritual life, whether that's just life in general, are we getting uncomfortable? And the reason I ask that is because as we think about getting uncomfortable, what are we doing to challenge ourselves to get better and learn and meet others that might be able to shed a little bit of light onto what we're doing? Because as I realized over the last 14 days of getting uncomfortable, and I've been to South Africa before, I've been to Australia, that's not really getting uncomfortable, but where does culture start to change for you that makes you uncomfortable? And maybe that's where does life change for you that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason I think getting uncomfortable is important is because if we stretch just a little bit and we get that uncomfortable feeling that things are they're not what I know, they're a little bit different, that challenges our mind to think about those respective categories just a little bit differently. Maybe that's having a challenging conversation with someone who maybe you're not all that familiar about a topic, but maybe you want to challenge them and get uncomfortable in that situation, because what you'll learn as a result of getting uncomfortable is generally pretty far, bar none, better than what you'll learn if you just stay in your comfort zone. So I think it's important as we step outside of our box, step outside of our comfort zone, get uncomfortable. And uncomfortable looks different for everybody, right? Some people, it might be going overseas to a culture like Vietnam or Taiwan. Some people getting uncomfortable might be having a religious conversation. Some people getting uncomfortable might be volunteering at a homeless shelter and seeing homeless people in our own community or needy people in our own community. Some, you name it, right? The list goes on. Find out what is uncomfortable for you that says, I don't know if I could do that. If you question yourself, that means it's an uncomfortable spot. And it's okay. But I would challenge you to get uncomfortable and go to that spot. Challenge yourself to do that. And maybe it's the fear of heights, similarly, right? But I think there's opportunity for us to really grow and challenge ourselves, and that stretch that we see, that healthy tension of getting uncomfortable in a situation. Maybe it's having a crucial conversation. The list goes on, right? But I think it's important that we do that. And over the last 14 days, admittedly, now there were moments that I was more uncomfortable than others. And through the next probably few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, I'm going to try to unpack, too comfy, no learning. Exactly. So I think when we're comfortable, we're not learning, we're not challenging ourselves, we're not challenging others. So I think we have to get uncomfortable. And my goal, we had 14 days, a lot to process. Frankly, I'm still processing some of it. But hey, Janice, I really wanted to, and I think Vince hopped on. Good to see y'all. As I've had time to dissect some of the things I've seen and experienced over the last 14 days, I really want to try and break it down because it is a lot of information, a lot of thoughts, really. And so, as is best, that generally we talk about it. I wanted to get back on Supper with Sean. Yeah, exactly, Janice. That's critical to success, growth, development, leadership. You name it. It's important that we all stretch ourselves and get uncomfortable and grow. So look for a few more of these to follow, as I'll try to break down some of the things that we started off the trip in Hong Kong. Maybe just a few statements around that. I'll pick that up on another night. And then I'll break into Vietnam, which is really probably the most, Brent, that is true. And that allows you to stretch when you're running to the restroom, right? Taiwan was the worst food we had. So we were really uncomfortable there. But, it's a young country. It's really old, but it's young by way of the people there. So definitely I would go back to Vietnam before I would go to Taiwan or Hong Kong. But we'll talk about that. I want to, yes, young people, exactly. 31 years old is the average age of the Vietnam population. So do the math on that one and think about it. I think Brent and I talked about that on Supper with Sean one morning over there. Hey, bro, two for Cubs. You know what? Reach out to me on Twitter and private message me or direct message me. Plenty of opportunities there. But I think as we start, and honestly, today feels like Wednesday, still kind of jet lagged, but I just really wanted to kick off kind of what I hope to be a little series here to really break down what I saw and what I'm still trying to process that made me uncomfortable or challenged me to think about things differently, because there's a lot there. And Brent, that is exactly true as we think about meat and food security, convenience. I agree with you, Janice. I think there will be plenty of stretch opportunities, but definitely a great opportunity to do that throughout the summertime with interns. So, listen, I don't want to ramble tonight, but I wanted to I did not, Josh, and you're kind of ruining one of the conversations that we're going to have a little bit later of kind of what Brent was alluding to, the food security, the convenience, cultural differences, i.e. dog meat. So it's all right, man. It's reality, right? And so that's just one of those things there's this sensory overload. You guys all followed along Snapchat really well. So this sensory overload thing and really still trying to process, comprehend, think about impacts to me, agriculture, our world, our country. So a lot of different things. So anyway, I'm going to let you go tonight, but I just really wanted to kind of kick off what probably the next week and a half will be. Probably won't be every night, but I want to kind of share a little bit about what that stretch is, what getting uncomfortable felt like, what were some of those things that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't the plane ride. It wasn't necessarily the people. It was things that you saw that really stretch you out of the norm. So until then, think about what it is that makes you uncomfortable. Think about what it is that would challenge you to get uncomfortable if you haven't thought about that already. And then, of course, the important thing is think about how are you going to change that, right? How are you going to go approach something that's uncomfortable for you and change that? Vince, it's I've got a book full of notes. I wish I would have kept a diary, but I'm just going to have to go through just some of the things that stuck in my head that were, still thinking and still churning about because there were a lot of them. So think about how you can stretch. Hey, Garrett, think about how you can stretch. Think about what makes you uncomfortable. And then most importantly, whatever that is that makes you uncomfortable, how are you going to go experience that uncomfortable feeling? Because when you experience that uncomfortable feeling, that's when you learn, that's when you grow, that's when you become a different person, and a different person in a good way, because you've now been challenged, you've challenged change, you've been through that experience. And those can be little things, those can be really big things. But I think we all have to get uncomfortable at some point in our lives, often, not just once. It needs to be a repetitive process so we continue to learn and grow and help others around us. That's the other key. I think as you grow and develop, you help others around you also grow and develop, challenging them, helping them get uncomfortable. And that's what it's all about. So I'll be back probably, I think I'm actually home tomorrow night. We'll try and catch this again tomorrow night and follow up with another experience from overseas international travel and what, you're still allowed. Good to see you, man. So we'll catch you hopefully tomorrow night, Lord willing, and talk a little bit more about some of the things maybe from Hong Kong, which was our first stop on our international trip, and how some of those things made us uncomfortable or slightly challenging what we think about in our daily lives. So with that, everybody, thanks for hopping on. Good crowd tonight. Appreciate you watching Supper with Sean, and we'll hopefully catch you tomorrow night. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.